Hi guys, welcome to RootStem, and in this video I'm going to show you how to paint all these Space Marines. Alright guys, welcome. As you can see, they're all in their primed stage. So yeah, basically Dark Angel's green. We're going to be using some reds, some greens. Kind of trying to get that classic Dark Angel colour scheme. Red bolters, green armour, maybe some shoulder pad action going on. And we've also got a bit of a dread. So I've got 30 Intercessor Space Marines with various different weapons on. The backpacks are not currently glued on. They'll be done later. It's quite easy to... It's a lot easier when you've actually not put them on there to be able to actually do the backpack separately. I find you can get into all the nooks and crannies easier. And I've also got some of these, I think they're called, are they Seekers? I can't remember. Eliminators. God damn it, what's the Seekers are from Heresy. Man, how many different blooming units for Space Marines now? Just makes it very, very awkward. So, yeah, we've got a Dread, we've got some Eliminators, we've got about 30 Intercessors. We've actually got some characters as well, but that's going to be a different video. So it's going to be a good army chunk that I'm going to be painting up all at once. If you've ever seen these videos before, you know that I like to try and do batch painting if I possibly can do. So this might be in 2 parts, simply just because of time. And then of course I'll have another part with all the characters. The characters are that Librarian, Apothecary, Chaplain. There's no captains or anything because of course I've already done one of those. And yes, there is an arm here because we are replacing an arm on another model. This is for my mate Chris. You may have seen him on my channel. He's the one with the Slanesh, really nicely painted Slanesh Demon Army, and it's nicely painted because I painted it. So of course we're going to be starting with some Caliban Green, traditional Dark Angel colour. We're going to be filtering it through an airbrush, firing it at the figures of course. We are going to be doing it on the Eliminators. I'm going to try and cover up the coats as best as I can, either with some parafilm or blue tack, whichever one's going to be easiest to be able to put. Mainly I'm wanting the inside of a cloak covered. Outside of a cloak can just remain normal because I can always paint over that quite easily. And then we're going to be doing some different masking later on. And of course we're going to be doing some traditional reds, some darker reds. Reds and greens must never be seen apparently, yet I always find they work very well together. Right, let's crack on. Next stage we've got some Warpstone Glow, which I've put a little bead in because it needed shaking up properly, and we're going to be highlighting. Now it's quite self-explanatory, you know, you just need to make sure that you've got the raised edges coming from an angle, maybe 45 degrees, don't come in straight, and you know, just try and catch the raised bits if you can. I've got it about, I'm going to knock it down to about 20 psi, because of course we're going to be doing detailed work. That'll do. And on the Dread, I am covering bits up because I'm going to try, I don't really do this very often, I'm going to try and do one of those nice highlights where you can get to the edge, but then the other bit underneath doesn't have the highlight until you get to the edge, and that's what I'm just working my way with that. So hopefully that will look spectacular when done. got all the Marines done. I just wanted to get like a 50-50 Floor Improver and Warpstone Glow mix, and then just kind of from a distance, this should pick up all the raised areas and just make them show a little bit more green than what you're wanting. We are going to dull this back down later. Now, as you can probably see, some of my stuff has changed. Yes, it has. I am actually in a different location, and the reason for that is due to the new restrictions. At the time of recording this, the new UK restrictions are coming in, meaning that I've got to effectively change location to be able to continue to work from home. Right. So, once we've got all of our little men, once we've got them all with a highlight, some of them you can see, some of them are a bit, yeah, we've got a nice little bit of a transition going on there. So we've got the guys done. I've got the other guys done, and of course the Dread has also been done. Now the Dread I'm going to leave. That of course is Power Fist, and everything else has also been done. But what we're going to do is to leave the Dreadnought for the moment, because we're going to coat all of these guys in null oil. So a little bit watered down, don't do it pure, but effectively we're just going to coat this lot null oil. A wet palette, always a good idea. And just give them an all over wash. Like I said, just thin it down a little bit. I'm just going to put mine on a wet palette, not for more control. And this is what's going to take you a while. So basically just coat all the guys. Don't do it too heavy or harsh, because if you do it with the wrong type of brush, you will start to rub off that highlight, which you don't want to do. So make sure it's a nice soft brush that you're actually using, and just gently put it on, let it fall into the recesses, and once that's done, we're going to come back to the next stage. Now back to the Warpstone Glow. We are going to dry brush. So yeah, we're going to dry brush all the models. Done that one kind of already, hopefully you can see. But basically just do them in up and down directions to begin with, and then if you want to, try and pick some of the armour plates, like on the arms, side by side maybe, across the face. And that will give you the subtle dark green armour that these guys are famous for. When you're doing the Dreadnought, don't go backwards and forwards. What we're going to try and do is to dry brush along edges. We're going to try and pick out these edges with a dry brush. And then we'll come in maybe with a lighter colour as well. Do a little bit of edge highlighting. But even go all the way up when you're doing the dry brush on the Dread. Don't leave the darker bits still. Get them with that dry brush. So, we've now got, hopefully you can see that. You can see it. Got some nice, some slightly nice transitions on there. Just little bits of edges. And then we're going to finish that off with a little bit of moot green. We're going to dry brush that using a smaller dry brush, and we're just going to touch, kind of like just try and do little tiny bits, so maybe like one stat way, maybe a bit on the helmet. I just want to pick out bits, not actually whole things, but bits of the armour. And we're also going to be doing the same with the Dreadnought pieces. Dreadnought pieces looking amazing, to be honest. I'm really happy with how that's turned out. Right, let's crack on. So hopefully you can see that there. I've been very particular with where I've applied the edge, where I wanted the moot green. So that's what we're basically doing on everything. We're not picking up everything. Don't forget there's going to be a backpack. I don't want to pick up everything. It's same with this. We're going to be picking up the dread. Is going to be picking up certain edges, basically just to be able to make it look nice and just to finish off that highlight. So next up, we're going to be painting up some silver pieces. So get your lead belcher, whatever silver you like, and just start doing up your weapons. Effectively, if you think there's anything else on the actual model that I could do with some silver pieces, like for example, with this guy not having a helmet, I'm going to do his ear pieces. I'm also going to do the grenade launcher shells as well. Paint that up silver. I'm trying to keep it so that majority of the bolt gun casing is left, because we're going to be painting that red. I've also, of course, silvered up the weapons, the hand, and majority of Big Dread. Be really careful while doing this. Make sure you've got appropriate brush sizes, because you don't want to be putting silver paint all over your airbrushed green, otherwise you're going to have to start again. Next up on your path to silver perfection, sorry I'm kicking my camera, basically we've null oiled everything as well, so everything gets put with null oil pretty much straight out the pot, and that will give us our darker aspects. Now on the, I want to call them 28mm, but they're not, they're actually larger. On the 28mm we are going to be using some Runefang steel. And we're just going to use one of our smaller brushes, and we're going to highlight all of those aspects. When I get an appropriate small brush, that is. Don't think I've got an appropriate. And once all that's been highlighted, we can then just leave that bit. For the silver on the big lad, we're going to be using a combination of this and Necron Compound. Now I've got my silver painted up, we're going to be looking at doing some reds. Now, before we do any of the main reds on the weapons, we're going to be looking at doing the pouches. So there's some pouches and straps on these models. Straps I'm wanting to do like a leather brown, but I am wanting to do the pouches like a burgundy. So what we need to do is just to make sure that all of this is base coated with some Rhinox hide first, and then we can add some different red to it later. You might need a couple of thin coats, but it will be worth it in the end. Just get cracking, find any straps, find any, it's mainly going to be on these particular figures, find any straps, find any sort of pouches, get them all painted up with that Rhinox hide. So now I've got my standard brown on here. I'm actually going to finish off the leather, so I'm going to do that by just adding a layer, a bit of a highlight of Doom Ball to the leather patch areas, and then I'm going to add, I've watered it down a bit, after we've added Doom Ball I'm just going to highlight that with some Scrag Brown. I wanted to say VCO Brown, but it's not, and then we will be putting a shade on that later. Now I've got that sort of layers of brown sorted, looking pretty swish before we put a wash on there. We're going to do the red. Now what I'm going to do is about 5 models at a time. I'm going to paint the red. I've got the red thin down. I'm just going to paint one layer for now. So I'll just give you an example of me painting this figure. to do about 5 at a time. So I've done the 5. I've only really done 1, maybe some places a little bit of an extra layer, because I'm not wanting to go over it too much. And then what I'm going to do is to coat it, all the bolter, all the red, in Airbrush Earth Shade. And if you've got a strap at this moment, a unit with a model with a strap on, hey, a model with a strap or a sort of belt pouch, anything of that nature, then put the Airbrush Earth Shade across that as well. That'll create you a nice sort of lovely leather style effect. Now, as you can see, I've put Airbrush Earth Shade all over that. Here's one I made earlier. And then once that's done, just go back over with the red and make sure, you've got to make sure that the Airbrush Earth Shade is dried first. Make sure you're just avoiding the recesses. And that'll give us a very bright red. That will be a little bit reminiscent of 2nd edition Marines. Now when you're going in for the 2nd red as well, if you want to, I'm going to be doing this. I forgot to do it on these, so I'm going to go back. But basically I'm going to do a line across the knee pad. 2nd edition had, a majority of them tended to have this line across the knee pad, so I'm just going to emulate it for the commission, because he wants them to look like 2nd edition Marines. I might need to get a new brush to start to separate, or even clean it. Go back over that a couple of times and that'll give it a nice solid line. So we've got the red on the bolters, that's all been done, hopefully you can see that. And we've also got the red on the big lad. There we are. And of course red on the eliminators. Now, I mean, if you're not painting eliminators, you don't really have to, I suppose, do this next step. I'm just cutting back in with some black. We are just going to basically painting the handles of the bolters just to make sure that we are black, and we're also painting up the bits, because I'm wanting the camo cloaks on the inside just to be a pure black. So any part of the camo cloak that looks like it should be the inside of it, I'm painting back up as black, so I'm base coating it up, making sure that of course we've got a black internal. I'm possibly going to go for an urban camo on these. I'm going to be doing a separate video showing camouflage patterns, simply because it'll be easier to, if someone's just doing basic dark angel, you're not going to want to know what camouflage is. So if I break it up into a couple of different videos, that will make it nicer for people that are just following for the dark angel scheme. So if you want to cut any black back in, this is the time to do it. Then we'll be, of course, coming in with some extra layers, but don't do hair. If you think you're going to have some black hair, don't do the hair. Leave that at this moment in time. So what I've done, if you can see those, I've always, as I normally do, skipped ahead. We've got some grace here, and we have put it onto the little bits of purity seals, as it were. We've also done all the faces, anything else that we're wanting to be an alternative colour. We've done it on some of the bolters there, and of course these lovely shoulder pads. We are going to be going over that eventually with some alternative colours, but for now we're going to go on to bone, which is going to be done on all of the figures. That's going to be on the chest and on the little emblems on the guns, apart from the ones that look like a scroll. So basically any scrolls, paint them up grace here. And now we're going to use your shabty bone, because we're wanting to try and get this next process done. The whole idea is, of course, with batch painting, we're making them look good, but we're also thinking about other speeds. It's taken us a while to get these reds. Oh, it took me a while at least to get these reds. I'm sorry, I've got some keys flying around in the background. And I'm basically wanting to try and get a lot of the eagles done. So anything that's the eagle on the chest, we're going to be painting it up with Redemptor Bone, and then any other things that you see, such as like a shoulder pad. Where is it gone? Well, effectively that on the shoulder pad, the little emblem, and there's some shoulder pads. I'm not quite sure. Well, it is on my stuff anyway. There we go. As you can see from that shoulder pad there, that's more like a plate. So what we're going to be doing is basically putting Redemptor Bone all over that plate. I said Redemptor Bone on a plate. What I meant was shining gold. So as you can see, I actually, again, skipping forward, we've got some shining gold on the actual dread, and I've actually put some shining gold on those shoulder pads, and there's other little areas like on these guys, there's some shining gold little emblems. So anything that you want on there, you can even have some skulls and etc. in shining gold. So we should all be prepped now for our wash stage. It's going to be quite a heavy wash stage, to be honest with you. So I've got Agrax Earthshade Gloss, that's going to go onto the gold pieces. We've got Contrast Yellow, that is going to go, I've got these little shoulder pads here with some like ribbon or some, I can't remember, it's a bit like rope. So basically I'm going to do that with yellow. I'm doing that yellow because it's very second edition, which is what these guys are based on. We've also got some wildwood, which is going to go for any sort of like wooded emblems or anything of that nature. This guy's got some beads as well, as you can see I've already in his chest, got some beads on. So that's going to be wildwood. Then we're going to be using, of course, Dark Oak Flesh. That's just going to be painted for the flesh, makes it nice and easy, quick and simple. Then we've got some Seraphim Sepia, and that's going to be going on any purity seal. So the purity seal I know is going to be grey, but we'll put a heavy wash of that on, and then we'll sort the rest of it out in a moment. And then of course we've got standard Agrax Earthshade, not the gloss. That's going to go on the chest eagles, which are bone, and of course any of the other bone elements. They're going to be painted with Agrax Earthshade. Once you've done the chest eagle, basically you're just going to get a really thin brush, hence why I'm holding this one, and we're just going to paint lines of your Redemptor Bone back into the actual eagles themselves, just to try and give them a nice highlight. So we kind of shaded them, we highlighted them. I don't want them to be too bright. It'll make sure that everything looks good in the end. Right, get cracking. Getting here to the end of these 36 Marines now. We've got eyes to do, so I'm going to grab a model and hopefully you can see that I've put little slits of grey cere inside the actual eye slot, and then we're going to go in with some Blood Angel Red contrast paint. Now the reason I'm using a contrast paint, if you've seen any of my other painting videos to other marines, it sometimes leaves a little tiny bit on the outside as if it's like a mini form of glow, and it's a really cool way of doing it. Of course we don't need the ones that have got not got a helmet on, so everyone that's got just bare heads, you can move to one side. And don't forget to do everybody, because it's going to look a bit weird if you don't. I don't mean moving people to one side, I mean the lenses. So we're going to get the lenses painted. I have painted some of the bolter lenses the same way as I painted the gems, which will be on another video. So that will be on a different video. It's either going to be coming soon or it'll be before this one, depending on how quickly I can get these done. And very thinly, in fact that's not the right brush, excuse me, so I've got the proper brush, a little bit of the contrast red, make sure you've got a nice thin point into the other side. Use quite a bit if you can, and then it'll leave a little bit of a red rim, and then you've got some red eyes. So you guys are pretty much nearly done. I've just put a little bit of watered down brown, trying to create a bit of a wash into some of the some of the purity seals, just to try and make it out. The Dreadnought, of course, I've glued in the shoulder pad and everything else. I don't think there's much else to do. I have gone forward and painted some of the hair on some of the marines, given them like a white and a browny ginger, and I think there's like a black that I've done. So I've gone forward and kind of painted up some of these guys blonde, and of course we've already done the lenses on some of the weapons, which will be on a different video. I think it's about time, but I just went through, titivated little tiny bits, based them and put some transfers on, and then we'll be done. And there we have it. Woohoo! All of them done. Took me a bit because of course I had to move during the painting process, but managed to get all that lot done. That's a nice little starter set, really. 3 squads of intercessors, you got 6 eliminators, I think they're eliminators, and of course you got Redemptor Dread in the backfield. All done with Airbrush. If you wanted to know how to do the transfers, I'll try and remember to include a link to my transfer video. I'll also try and include a link to my video regarding painting bases. I don't really show that on every single video because I tend to do the same thing, and it just becomes repetitive. You're just doing the same thing over and over again. But thanks very much for watching, guys. Please like, share, subscribe, hit that notification button if you do want to see more. And hopefully next time we've got a little bit different. There's going to be some other videos coming out with some of the bits and bats of what I did, mainly the cloaks for the eliminators, but yeah, that should be coming out next week. Well, thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.